Going over the Ubershrike Death Match Arena. It's the Arena of Death. The Death Match Arena was created by Chris McDermott, formerly known as the Map Hatter Game Tile Warehouse. Essentially, this was a fun arena to kind of run people through to get them used to combat and such. So I'm going to be running this during the Founders Day weekend on Sunday. And I already have an event in our Discord, but essentially you can join the combat, but I only have room for 4 players, and I think I already have 1 or 2 people signed up already. But essentially the battle arena is this big map here, and we're going to have a big battle on here, and there's a couple hazards, and then there's going to be also other events for the Founders Day weekend, which is the 26th through the 28th. And the 28th is when we're going to actually do this thing here. But I wanted to share with you some of the creative process that goes into creating this type of experience for your players. I think a lot of us get kind of overwhelmed with the gameplay and such, and we don't really get a lot of, I guess we don't get a lot of room to be creative and such, and we're just too worried about running the game, and that's unfortunate. But it's one of those things where you have to consider the source, and you have to kind of go with the punches. But this is something that I like to do for my players and also for the people that join the table, so it's a lot funner and a lot more interesting, and not just kind of your run-of-the-mill predictable adventure. This is going to showcase basically combat. It's not going to be a lot of role-playing. Essentially, it's just going to be 4 players fighting some monsters, and that's pretty much the gist of it. I am allowing for players to pick from 4 pre-gens that I'm making for it. The pre-gens are set up around the mostly combat, although there is a couple spellcasters in there. One is a war cleric, and then one is a bard, College of the Swords, and then we have like a fighter gladiator type, and then we have a barbarian. So pretty martial as far as that goes. I didn't think a warlock or a wizard or maybe a war wizard would work, but I try to keep them kind of martial kind of based. And around the arena, I have these 4 windows, and essentially I just did that so that they can see the whole thing, but they can't move past this wall. And it's just a window, so it doesn't block any light. It just blocks movement. So the players can't just move through the stands here. They have to talk to me about climbing up or something like that. And that's the only really line of sight on here other than daytime lighting. So there's really no need for it. And I have NPC stat blocks for the center blade trap. And then for these rolling, I call them rolling pin cushions, but they're essentially pretty stationary. I mean, they're kind of chained to the ground, but you can move them at like 5 feet per round if you're a small creature, and you can move them at 15 feet if you're a large creature. Medium creatures can move them 10 feet, but they're very heavy and very difficult to move. And they're made to be mobile, but they usually use a horse and chariot to move these things around. They put them in place, and then when the battle's over, they'll rinse them off, and then they'll move them to another spot. And then there's a couple walls in here. There's one here and one over here, which is essentially it's fairly stationary. Those don't really move, although they can pivot, so that makes it kind of interesting. So if you are on or next to the squares on here, you can push or shove the direction of it, and that way it will provide you with at least partial or half cover. If you're a small creature, you can get full cover from these. These things here, the pin cushion things, the rollers, they're not really that tall. They're probably about 3 feet tall. So for a small creature, you can get cover, but a large creature, probably not much. And then the centerpiece here is stationary in regards to its placement, but the blades spin at a fairly rapid rate. There's some kind of mechanism that rotates it underneath. It's probably some people running around on a track, or maybe some animals on a treadmill or something, but this thing rotates. It's got gears and stuff underneath and a center shaft. But essentially, these are rusty, kind of sharpened blades that spin around. And once you walk into this area, you have to make a save or take more damage. So you don't. Most people avoid it. You can get to the center of it, which is a tactic that some people could use, but it's really dangerous, and I wouldn't recommend it. And it stands. The blades themselves, they're kind of wobbly. They're not, entirely stable, but basically this thing kind of wobbles up and down a little bit. It flexes a little, and then it moves clockwise or counterclockwise, but it basically has these blades on it, these sharpened edges, and when it comes around, it cuts pretty hard. So there's a little bit of force behind it, and on top of that, they're rusty, so it's not very fun to get cut with it. And there's already stains and like hair and bones and stuff around here, and then on top of that, it's kind of got some really powerful blades that can cut you. So it's kind of a nasty trap, but it's not even a trap. It's just an obstacle, a hazard. Most people end up pushing one another into it. So that's usually the one tactic or people will run around it to kind of use it as a barrier. But it's really just a kind of a showpiece, not really meant to be anything spectacular other than a kind of oohing and on. And then there are some possibilities that a crowd member might fall into the arena, or there might be a time where the guards have to come in and break something up or whatever. But for the most part, it's a fight to the death. You got 4 players and some monsters, and basically you just battle it out in here. So I've already made all the creatures, the NPC stat blocks. I'm going to do the artwork later, basically just make a few tokens for the special ones. And then I was working on a soundtrack for this. And essentially, this is the Ubershrike Arena soundtrack, and it's coming along. It needs a little work, but
step into the wasteland where shadows creep, enter the arena where the mighty weep. Welcome to Ubershrike, where the fierce collide. Witness the carnage under torchlight. Welcome to the Death Arena, where fate is sealed. Only the ruthless emerge revealed. Blades whirl and goblins strike. In the Death Arena, there's no place to hide. The crowd roars wild as the gates burst wide. 4 challengers march with death by their side. 3 goblins lurking with bows drawn tight. And Ettin stands, eager for the fight. Steel clashes with fury, sand stains red. A mechanical death trap with a fearless tread. 30 inches off the ground, a lethal dart. Ruthless emerge revealed. Blades whirl and goblins strike. In the Death Arena, there's no place to hide. The Ettin's heads bicker, its power immense. Goblins cower behind in terror's defense. No mercy given, no retreat in sight. In the Death Arena, feel the crowd's delight. Heroes fight on with valor and rage. Through chaos and blood they engage. Dodging the blades, they battle their foes. Every strike vital as the danger grows. The death trap spins, a whisper of doom. A grim reminder in this blood-soaked room. Accident or shove, it doesn't care. In the Death Arena, death is always near. Welcome to the Death Arena, where fate is sealed. Only the ruthless emerge revealed. Blades whirl and goblins strike. In the Death Arena, there's no place to hide. Heed this warning, if you dare. The Ubershrike Arena waits if you've the heart to bear. For in this brutal stage where...
anyways, you get the idea. So I made a kind of a theme song for it. I used FL Studio, and I used a little bit of AI for the vocals. and I'm just kind of polishing that up for the game. So when the game comes up, I can use it. But I'm going to go ahead and save this and get out of this program because it's kind of a resource hog. Yeah, so I want it to be Ubershrike theme. So that's kind of like the theme song for it. And go ahead and cut this out. So I kind of want this to be fun. That's why I'm going the extra mile. I wouldn't normally make a soundtrack and all that for a game, but I thought it'd be interesting. So another thing you can do is if you have Sirenscape and you understand how to set it up, Sirenscape allows for you to trigger events depending on what's going on in the combat tracker and the in your chat window. It triggers off of that, or you can have it set up for story context. So what I'm going to do is basically have I'm going to create my own sound links for this particular adventure. I don't need very many. I just need a couple sound effects, for like the crowd and the battle music. But I already have a soundtrack, so I don't really need a full-on battle thing. But I'm going to go ahead and make my own. So in the sound context here, this is the global volume and the one-shot volume. So the global volume is mostly for the music and the soundtrack type stuff, and these one-shot ones are for like the sound effects, like the spell effects and the fighting. But what I usually turn the volume down to about maybe 55% on the one-shots, and then the global volume I usually keep that about where it is, because this tends to overpower and get really loud. Especially if you use like a fireball or something, it'll scare the crap out of you. So that's kind of that. And then in the settings, once you have all this set up, you have to authorize your setup. You have to have a Sirenscape subscription for the their super subscription. Then you import the data, and then you generate links for yourself and for your players. And I have the invites set up in OBS, so the player version is going to play through OBS. You guys can hear that later. But these are all the different sound packs that are available right now through Sirenscape. So I can do a search here and look for, I'll try Arena first. So here's some Arena sounds. Hopefully this will play through. Oh, I got it too. One thing you got to do on this is, okay, let me generate the player and the invite. So when you have Sirenscape active, you have to have the web player open. Otherwise, it's not gonna, and you have to hit start on the page. Otherwise, you're not going to hear anything. So that's what this is. This is the browser. And I have it set to run through OBS, so I'll copy this address, and then what I'll do, oops, I didn't mean to close that, dang it. Let me bring that back up. That's the thing, is you don't want to close that window. Otherwise, you're not going to get any, especially players. Okay, so I'm going to copy that link, and I'll show you what I'm doing here in OBS. So for OBS, this is the overlay and all that. So right here, I have Sirenscape. So it's set up as a browser, and all you have to do is put in the address for the session that you're running. And then I have it set up as a little icon here in the corner. But basically it has its own volume, so I can, control the volume for it. And it will mix in with the other stuff. So voices and that sort of stuff will all mix together. And then basically what I'm going to do is take and run those spells and those sounds through that. Let's see if I can get that to come up. You have to have it open the first time. Otherwise it's not going to, there we go. So that is, let's see, is that coming through? Yeah, so I'm going to turn off my desktop audio. Alright, so that's coming through now, and you just minimize it. Once you allow it to play, you'll just leave it minimized in the background, especially if you're a player and you can hear the audio. What's nice is you can control the audio from your computer. So if it's too loud for you, you know, you can turn it down on your system. You don't have to do anything else. Let me see if I can find something a little bit more. There's combat. I'm just looking for arena combat. So this might be a good thing. I like that. Boom. Boom. Arena crowd. Let's hear that. Yeah, I like that one better. Yeah, so you can set up a mood for this. That's basically what you're doing. You turn that down a little bit. There you go. Now you can probably hear my voice a little better. But this is basically just trying to get some idea of what kind of sounds I want to use for the battle. So what I can do here is create a kind of like links and a context menu that will pop up down here when you bring up the image, and you can have the stuff linked together. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to stop all of the audio. But I like the, I'm using the arena crowd from Tomb of Annihilation. That's the one I'm using. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come up to, in the library, go to sound sets. And what this is where you actually create or use triggers. So there are two different types of triggers, essentially, well, three, but there's chat triggers that will trigger from NPCs, spells, you know, actions, that sort of thing. And then there's the contextual ones, which are from story entries, images, and maps. So I'm going to make mostly the, that's super cool. Where do you set up the triggers? That's what I'm doing right now, Noldar, is these are, some of them are already provided. Like if you buy the Fantasy Grounds trigger packs, all those triggers are already set up for you. But you don't have to do that. If you kind of know what you're doing, you can set up your own. And I think that's ultimately a better way to go, because that gives you more flexibility, and then you'll know what's what, and it kind of forces you to learn the content too. So it's kind of it's a lot of work, but it is totally fun. And once you get into it, and you know, you can kind of do this, because some adventures are already set up to where they already have these triggers set up, but this is homebrew, so I'll have to do it myself. So I'm picking out some sounds. Since I have the super subscription on Sirenscape, I can pull up the library and do some searches. I search for arena, so I'm going to use a couple of these sounds as some triggers that I'm going to use during my session. So that is basically, there's two areas. One is the sound settings. This is where you kind of manage your, you know, your account and your invite for the players and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, authorization and all that, and then your library. But then there's the sound sets, which are the actual triggers. Right now I have some pre-made adventure modules that were put out by Smiteworks. So I'm taking and adding those in as needed in this case. But this is, if I go to books, or excuse me, if I go to my library and go to modules, I have already two. So this is from the monster manual. So this is all the creature sounds and stuff. And then this one is the player's handbook, which has all the spells and weapons and such. So that's already been done, which is a lot of the work. But if you buy an adventure like Lost Mine of Fandelver, the original, you can get the sound pack for that, and it'll have all the context ones that are kind of centered around the story more, and they're kind of linked up with Sirenscape's interpretation of those scenes in the adventure. But you can mix and match your own. You don't have to use those. And those do require that you have a Super Siren subscription and all that. And doing it this way is a little bit more customized. You still have to have the subscription, but at least you're not locked into any particular sound sets or anything. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing, is kind of make my own custom trigger. So in sound sets, this is where you would set up your trigger. So I'm going to make my own category. It's called Group 1 right now. And I'm going to edit the name of it. I'm just going to put Ubershrike, which is going to be my death Arena of Death sound sets. So once I have that made, this is just going to be my little separator or categories for that. So now I'm going to hit add item, and then you're going to I'm just going to call this Arena Sounds. But you have to decide, is it a chat trigger? Probably not. Is it content? Yes. So this is going to be a content type trigger. And then is it a story entry or an image? In this case, I'm going to say image because I want it to propagate based off of the image that I bring up. So then what I'm going to say is, let's see, the image links. I'm going to link the image into this sound set. Let's see if how this works. So if I drag, yeah. So this is the actual image that I want to trigger or bring up the sound context for that particular image. And then the sound set links, I'll go back to the library here, and the one I wanted, let's see, the arena. I'll say the arena sound. I'll say battle music, because I want it to be a little bit more apparent as to what it is. Because if I just say arena battle music, it's not, I got to be a little bit more specific. So the type is content, and the type of content is images. You can do story entries too, but in this case, this is for an image. And then for the sound link, I think I like let me try the arena crowd. This was, let's see, this was, and here's what's playing now. Yeah, that's not much to that one. I'll try something different. Let's try this one. Let's first turn that off. Let's try this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is say arena crowd, because that's what basically how I want to present it. Okay, so there's a link there. So we're playing Arena Crowd 2. So what you can do with this is drag and drop that here, and that'll set up this trigger. Now what you can do with this to make it more convenient for you is drag and drop this sound context thing onto the arena itself. So I might place this up here next to the stands and then use this as a trigger when I need it. So that's basically just the context for that. And I could add others. So if I wanted to, I can also bring up the battle music. So let's take a look at Arena Fight. Let's hear that. So I want to stop this one. It was Arena Crowd 2. And now I want to take a look at some music. So I kind of already have my own theme music, but I want to hear this arena combat. We'll see how this one plays out. And that's what's kind of neat about doing this, is you get a chance to preview. I already like it. So I'm going to use that as part of my context. So again, it's unlocked, and I'm going to drag the sound set into this link here. So this is Arena Combat 2. So I'm going to drag the link, the play button here, to here. And there, now we have 2 sounds associated with the arena crowd. I'll just say arena battle music. I'll just say arena sounds because it's kind of a combination of things. And now let's see if we can hear, see if we can find anything else. So that was Arena Combat 2. So just all this cheering going on. There's a fight from Ghost of Saltmarsh. Yeah, that's not going to work. Entering the arena, let's hear that. Now these come, mind you, these come from all different sound sets, but you don't have to use them for what they're specified for. You can use them however you like. So this is called Entering the Arena. So I might put that up here somewhere. But it's nice to have this little link here. And then when it comes time to play, I'll probably have this thing down here. And then that's where it's going to show up when I request it. And that way it's more convenient for me. So if I close this, now that I have it placed, to bring that up, that's going to have my, so I can hit play and stop here. Yeah, I'm not digging the enter the arena thing. Yeah, that's in the arena gallery. Well, that's good enough. So I have a couple, I have the crowd and I have the music. So I think that's good enough. Well, because the actual fighting, the weapons and stuff is going to come from the creatures and such. So I don't have to worry about that part of it because it's going to be triggered by the NPCs and the players. But all I did is set up my own links for this particular setup. And then I close the map. But if I did it right, let me see if, so if I bring the map back up, now that brings up those sounds. And that's the whole thing about it, is getting those, the right sounds for the right thing. And then linking it straight to your content so it's easier to get to. Right? You don't have to dig around looking for it. And it's this sound trigger thing is down here. But then when you have the image linked to the context menu, it's going to give you that menu, the direct menu to the sound. So you can trigger them here or you can trigger them from up here. I kind of like, this one gives you more control over the volume and such, but you don't have to have that if you already have this context menu here. Because then I can just trigger it from down here. And when I'm done, I can just minimize it, or I can, because you can minimize these and expand them. So you can hit the minimize key and just have this down here. And if you need it, you just pop it back open. So it's, you know, once you have that window size, it's easier to do. So that's basically how you do your own custom triggers. And what's nice about that is once you've done it a few times, it gets a lot easier. You don't get as overwhelmed. And then also, you can save it, and then you can export it as a module for another game. So if you wanted to use that same amount of work that you put into it somewhere else, you can export that data and then use it in a different game. So there would be a module. You can call it your own sound trigger module, whatever. And that's kind of what they're doing anyways with Smiteworks, but they're going through like all the different parts of the adventures and making triggers and stuff based off of the library collection that comes from the Sirenscape. But this is just kind of how you trigger it, if you have an account, that is. There's other ways to do it, like you can do it locally, but it's a lot more work because you have to add all the sounds to the library. Then you have to use a different controller that will trigger the sounds. And then you can't trigger more than one sound at a time. And then also you don't have control of the volume usually, unless you use an extension. And then you still have to figure out how to pipe the audio to your players. In this case, I could pipe it through OBS, no problem. But in the case of running a game or Discord or whatever, you still have to route the audio. So much easier to use this player instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. But it is, you know, if you got a lot of custom audio, you might want to look into how to do that. But it's a similar process, except for you're triggering the stuff locally, and then the sound itself, you still have to send that to your player. So it's a real pain in the ass sometimes. And then for the actual hazards on here, since I already have the NPCs made up, they don't have to be on the combat tracker because you're just basically using it for damage and saves. So the rotating blade trap, this thing here, I can just drag this link and drop it on there. And whenever this comes up in combat, all I have to do is bring up the stat block and then drag and drop the attack roll, the hit, the saving throws, and the additional damage if it's applicable. So that's one trap right there that's ready to go. I don't even have to do anything. It doesn't move outside of there, so I don't have to worry about it. And then for the spiked wall, which are these two things, I would do the same thing. Just bring up the stat block and drag the record link onto each area. And only the GM can see these, so it's not like the players will know. And then what we're going to do is take and do the next set of hazards. So the rolling blade trap, that's what these are. Or not the, these are the rolling spike roller. That's what those are. So I'll do the same thing, just link it on top of the spike roller. So when people get within around here, around the periphery there, you'll have that handy. So those are your hazards kind of dealt with. You don't have to sit here and fish through the whole library looking for that. It's all ready to go. And you use the stats on here and the notes and use that to run your combat. And I went ahead and did some fancy explanations in case someone else runs this. What it does, how to use it, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the only thing I really got left to do is to make the characters. I got to make the pre-gens, so that's going to take some time. And I'll just going to make 4 characters. I already have them planned out. I just haven't built them yet. And then, you know, I'll basically get the NPCs into an encounter. So when the game starts, they'll have a location. So I'll go ahead and build that encounter while we're here. So I got the NPCs already up, and I'm going to create a new encounter. So in this case, I'm going to create my own category. And then what I'll do is rename this. So this will be the Ubershrike Arena of Death. And that's for the encounters. And then what I'll do is select that so I have my own group. And now I'm going to make, this is going to be the main battle. So this is an Ettin. I'll call it Ettin battle, even though there's more than just the Ettin. And then we'll take the Ettin NPC and, well, where did it go? I thought we had him on here. Maybe he's uncategorized. No? What the hell happened? Let me see. Where is my Ettin? Huh. Wait, he's got a name. It doesn't say Ettin. It's like some, okay, yeah. Grondar the Brawler. There we go. I was like, what? Okay, so Grondar goes on here. And I'll have to redo these because I'm going to add tokens, but I wanted to show you the process. So that's that. And then this one is the Arena Goblins, and there's going to be 3 of those. So this would, you know, you basically, then you hit refresh. So it's a CR10 challenge rating overall, and that's the experience. But basically, you're going to place these guys where you want them to start. So I'll take this token here and add it to the map. So So that's the Ettin, and then the little goblins will be, what the heck? So the goblins will basically be, why are this so goofy? Okay. So goblins, let me look at their stat block, make sure it's right. It's small humanoid, I don't know, something's going on with the scaling of the tokens, but basically this is how I would have it set up. And then all I do is, I'm going to swap out the tokens later, but basically I'd have it set to where A is Arena Goblin, G is Ettin. Oh, duh. You're right. Thanks for... I'll delete all of them. I was going to say, what the hell's going on here? Okay, let me try it again. I was like, A for Ettin. Okay. Yeah. So I got it backwards.
Chocolate chip, banana chocolate chip.
Okay. So here's the goblins. Yeah. Idiot. That was hilarious. You're like, no, dude, it's the other way around. That makes sense. I was like, why is it so backwards? Well, that's still messed up, but at least it's fixed. Oh, I see. I didn't put the right one on there. See, that's, yeah, I gotta pay attention. So delete this one. Drag this one. You don't want to drag the one on the left. You gotta drag this one. There we go. Now they're scaled properly. Alright, so that's basically what I'd be doing, is kind of getting the encounter set up and then having it ready to go for before the game starts. And just kind of use that as their starting location. When you actually take this encounter and link it here, so that way when it starts, everything's right on the map. I don't have to dig around looking for everything. And then I just add this to the combat tracker. And there we go. So there's the combat tracker. There's all the guys. They're all set and ready to go. I must have screwed this one up. So let me delete that one. There we go. But once you make them visible, then they'll all be on here. So let me fix that. All right. So that's the prep for it, and then just making tokens at this point. So I made some art, used some generative AI tools to make the art. So I guess generated. So this is the sign. This is what's in the background. The Ubershrike, and then here's the Ettin. So I'm going to take this image here and just make a big token. Yeah. So that's that. And then what else do we got? The goblins. Oh, here's the war horn. I'm gonna find a big war horn sound, but that's basically what starts the battle. And then here's the little goblins. So that's basically the handouts. And I'm just gonna use the images here to make the tokens. That's pretty much all I got left to do is the tokens. That's probably the most part of the work anyways. But I can make this a 3D token in case. So if we want to play this with the 3D view, when we go to this mode here, I can also use them in that mode, so you can make this more immersive if we want. That actually looks kind of fun. Looks pretty decent actually from here. But anyways, I'll make the tokens. I'll make both types. I'm gonna make the handout so you can see what it looks like, and then the top-down token, or in this case, it'll be like a pog. And then I will do the 3D kind of looking thing, so that when they're playing on the battlefield, you can use that view to see what's going on from that point of view. All right, so that's basically mostly what I had. So this is all setting up for Founders Day weekend. So Friday, I'm going to be on the Fantasy Grounds Fridays, talking about Founders Day, Fantasy Grounds. Saturday, I'm going to do a kind of like a prompt workshop for using generative AI tools and Fantasy Grounds together. And then Sunday I'm going to run this thing, which is just going to be like 3 hours or so of combat and just fighting in the arena. So I think I still have some spots left open. I don't know if it's filled up or not. I'll take a look, but last time I looked, I only had like 1 or 2 people, and I need 4. So we'll see how that goes. But hopefully everyone shows up, because that's something that I had problems with, is people will click on interested and they'll say, yeah, they want to go and everything. But then when it comes time, they forget. And they don't use the reminder. So then they don't know when it's going on, or they're not on Discord at the time or whatever. So that's problematic for sure. But, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll be able to find a standby. That's another thing, is I added 1 extra slot for a standby, just in case. Because this happens all the time, or at least 1 person can't show up. Let's see, so... yeah, I only have 1 player, so... but the workshop, so far, I've got 2 people sign up for that. That's pretty open, so that won't matter as much. But we have a cyberpunk game, and I know there's a couple other games going up too, so if you guys are interested in trying cyberpunk, there you go. That's going to be going on. But yeah, so that's how I would prep for this. And, you know, kind of a little over the top, but you know, that's just the way I roll. You don't have to do all that stuff. I mean, there's, you know, that might be a little overkill. But I'm really happy with the way the Ubershrike theme came out. But I'm going to leave you with that. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I hope to see you during Founders Day weekend. It's the 26th through the 28th. And again, this is Fantasy Grounds Virtual Tabletop. So we kind of went over game prep and how to make your own chat triggers, and then I was kind of showing you the process. The only thing I'm going to be doing is basically taking the tokens and making those. So I'll probably just use like token stamp or something like that to make those. But the bigger one, it may not work, because token stamp only goes up to 256 by 256. So I'm going to have to figure out how I want to do that, because it requires a bigger token of like 500 by 500 or something, or 512 by 512. So I'll probably do that in Canva. So I'll work on those. But that's pretty much all I got left to do to prep this. And what I might do is make this a module for Chris, because he might run it too. So we'll see what he does. But anyhow, folks, you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully this helps you at some point. I wasn't really intending to stream today, but I had to make some announcements about a few things. So one is, you know, we're having Founders Day weekend again. I'll say that 50 times, but that'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from the 26th to the 28th. And I'll be doing a Fantasy Grounds Friday show. I'm doing a AI workshop thing Saturday, and then Sunday I'm going to run this adventure. And there's a few other adventures going up too. And I'm trying to get some guests, so we'll see what happens there. But then when I go to, let's go to the images. So yeah, so that's Founders Day weekend. That's upon us. And I also want to say thanks if you guys are watching YouTube or anywhere like that. We've reached 5K yesterday, so we got 5,000 subscribers, now more. But thanks for that. It's a milestone for us, and with Fantasy Grounds, it's very niche, so it's really difficult to get that sort of following, because I mean the Fantasy Grounds ones obviously has like 10,000 or something like that, but other than Digital Dave or the Digital Dungeon Master, I don't know if there's anyone else that has a bigger stream that's dedicated to Fantasy Grounds. There are certainly several out there where they talk about Fantasy Grounds, but that's not their main claim to fame. They usually are streamers or something like that. But anyway, so this is mostly organic. There's not a lot of bloat where you just try to get subscribers. There's a lot of it's organic, and it happened over a few years. So at having that, it stays steadier than having a fictitious bunch of people and bots and everything else pumping up your channel. So thanks for that, you guys. And this will be our 7th celebration. So we've been going for 7 years. And essentially, we're just a community that wants people to play Fantasy Grounds and teaching you guys how to use it or inspiring you to do your own thing. You know, we don't know everything. We just know what not to do. And, you know, we don't work for Smiteworks, but, you know, we do work with them and, you know, we respect them. But we are kind of our own entity as far as, you know, the community goes. And we work with, you know, third-party publishers and content creators, game masters, and everybody you can think of that's involved with this in one way or another. And then I've got Chris is going to potentially join our server again and teach GIMP, like how to use GIMP to make maps. So he might be doing that occasionally. And I'm trying to get the engagement back up because we've kind of fallen off the radar there. I mean, we still have quite a few members, but there's not a whole lot going on. It's pretty mellow. But I think that's not just us. That's pretty much all across the board. It's summertime. You had the OGL mess. It's post COVID-19. I know the Dungeons and Dragons like the biggest rule set, and it's kind of in flux right now. So you know, I got all these factors going on. So there's probably have something to do with that. But I imagine by 2025 we'll get a better idea of how this is going to shake out. But anyhow, folks, take care. Have a good one.